Hello and welcome to Fawn. In tonight's sleep story, we follow along with a man named Burt as he goes about his evening routine of preparing for a night of rather unique work. So when you feel ready, get comfy. You might allow yourself to become still and drift along with the story. On a quiet street, in a somewhat future city, a building stands in the waning twilight. It is made of red stone and has been meticulously maintained. On its ground floor is a large apartment. 2 glass windows, which stretch nearly from the ceiling to the floor, look out from the kitchen and onto the street, which at this moment is just beginning to grow shadowy. Inside the kitchen, seated at a small breakfast table in front of the windows, is a man named Burt, and he is sipping a cup of freshly steeped tea. This apartment belongs to Burt. It has been in his family for generations, and he has lived in it since he was a young man. Everything about it is tidy, functional, and beautiful. Generations of footsteps have worn smooth the old wooden floors. The stone and brick walls stand just as straight as the day they were built. There is a large fireplace in the kitchen, which Burt enjoys lighting in the winter time. And tucked against one wall is an enormous cast iron oven with a gas stove top, the flame of which Burt has just recently clicked off when his beloved teapot began its long, melodic whistle. The teapot is nearly 100 years old and has spent most of those years employed in this very kitchen. At this moment, curls of steam are still rising from its spout. Burt is sitting at the table, a heavy ceramic cup warm between his palms, sipping a brew of strong black tea. A plume of milk blooms in the liquid. He breathes in the scent, inhaling deeply. The sun has just set, which means it's time for Burt to begin his day. Not long ago, he was nestled in his feather bed, lost in a deep, wandering dream. He's since gotten himself up, wrapped himself in a fluffy robe, and padded into the kitchen to have his first cup of tea in the peace and quiet of the early evening. When he's finished with his second cup, he sets about making a simple breakfast. 2 slices of good rye bread from his favorite bakery, toasted dark, with a butter knife's tip of Marmite scraped over top. A handful of berries. A small wedge of cheese. He munches these quietly, watching the ornate cast iron street lamps flicker on along the street outside, shining pools of warm light along the sidewalk as the night grows quieter and deeper. When the lamp in front of his own apartment flickers on, he stands and sets about readying himself for the night ahead. He has a warm shower, tends to his teeth, gives his beard a neat trim, and smooths a cardamom-scented oil through its short length to give it a soft sheen. He dresses for the evening in his usual uniform, which has been freshly pressed the morning before and is hanging now in his cedar closet. He is already wearing his undergarments, which are woven from a soft, light wool, and has pulled on a set of matching socks. Next, he dons a pair of tailored trousers, a soft, white linen shirt. He manages the bone buttons with practiced fingertips, smoothing down the collar over his collarbones, then shrugs his shoulders into a pair of suspenders, which are really more for tradition than function, but Burt appreciates them nonetheless. They are slender, handcrafted of tobacco-colored suede, and fastened to copper buttons, which have been sewn onto his trousers. Fully dressed, he makes his way to the front door. There, he chooses a pair of polished leather shoes from a cabinet. He sits on a doorside chair and takes his time to lace them up. From the hook beside his door, he slips on a slouchy, waxed cotton jacket, still gleaming with a recent coat of fresh wax. This, too, is a family heirloom, and has smelled of cedar for at least 2 lifetimes. Lastly, he puts on a cap, also wool. He finds his keys, waiting patiently on the doorside hook. They cling together when he lifts their copper ring, which he fastens to a leather cord dangling from his suspenders. He tucks them into his trouser pocket, presses down the door handle, and nudges it forward. The door opens right onto the sidewalk outside. Burt steps out into the fresh night air, pausing for a moment to breathe it in before locking the door behind him. He takes a moment to survey the street. All is quiet. All is still. Good, he thinks. He enjoys another deep breath, inhaling the cool nighttime smell of cobblestone and the faint scent of jasmine from the moonlight garden. Burt always marvels at how far that particular scent travels. Perhaps he'll enjoy a cup of tea in the garden later, when his shift is finished. He takes a few steps along the sidewalk, then turns to face a narrow door next to his apartment. The keys jingle as he slips them from his pocket and fits a long brass one into the lock. With a click, the door swings open, revealing Burt's garage. Inside, it smells clean and dry. Burt tugs on a cord dangling from the ceiling, and a warm light clicks on. Parked before him is a trim little vehicle, its polished surface gleaming in the soft light of the garage. It looks a bit like a milk delivery truck of a very long ago time, except that it's tiny and hasn't got any wheels. It hovers instead, stationary above the warm wood floor, compact and narrow, with rounded corners and a generous curving hood. It is painted a matte gray with a soft sheen of its own, like wet granite. Two large crystal orbs are set into copper trim at its front. Headlights, which are currently darkened. A soft, silvery hue twinkles in the crystal as they sleep. Burt smiles and greets the tiny truck, smoothing his palm along the polished hood. He proceeds to move slowly around its perimeter, leaning in close to inspect each curve, each reflection of light, as though he were appraising a prized horse. He peers through the large windows of the driver and passenger doors. The soft leather seats gleam faintly in the warm light. He bends to inspect the lower panels as well, taking his time. A contented expression is soft on his face. Tip-top shape, as usual. In all the years he's had it, it's only grown more beautiful with age. When Burt reaches the rounded cargo area, he finds another key on his copper ring and unlocks the small double doors. A light blooms on inside the cargo, all on its own, and the back of the truck is illuminated with a soft golden light. He appraises his tools, all accounted for, each one resting in exactly the position he left them in the morning before. He reaches toward the ceiling of the truck and pumps the tiny brass lever back and forth several times. A thin line of copper wire flickers to life, illuminating just the edges of the truck's exterior. He closes the cargo doors, locks them again, and climbs into the driver's seat, the door thudding as he pulls it closed. Burt waves his fingertips over a large, flat, floating plane of crystal. A series of copper switches, knobs, and controls bloom with light, and a soft hum sounds from beneath him. The headlights fill with two beams of rich golden light, which spill onto the sidewalk and blink out into the night. Burt touches his fingers to a crystalline lever, one that swivels in many different directions, and with a delicate, practiced touch, the truck glides out into the street. The night sky is glittering with stars. The street is quiet, and the city stretches out before him, hushed and shadowy in the deepening night. The garage locked safely behind him, Burt settles back against the soft leather of his truck seat, his hand light on the crystal lever. Now there is work to be done. A smile touches Burt's lips as he tips the lever forward, and the little truck glides silently down the street, slipping through pools of golden light and disappearing into the shadows beyond. The city, just beginning to fall asleep, welcomes Burt into the night.